Alright, so hi boys and girls. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a graphic organizer so we can rewrite chapter 7 or rewrite another, so I can rewrite chapter 7 and you can rewrite another chapter in a point of view of a different character in Maniac McGee. So what I chose chapter 7, so I make sure I have my white piece of paper to make my graphic organizer, a writing utensil, and then my Maniac McGee book. And probably my ELA notebook, just because we're going to want to have that, because that's going to have all of our notes and us marking up the text. Okay? So, the first thing I'm going to do is I made sure I read the chapter, and I marked up the text. My book has things underlined and things like that. Yours is going to have your sticky notes. Okay? So we want to make sure that we have that. Another thing we want to make sure that we have is our paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start and I'm going to write 3 columns, okay? So I'm going to have my beginning, middle, and end, because every narrative or every story always has a beginning, middle, and end. So when I read the story, I took some notes and I said that at the beginning of the chapter, Maniac McGee is not present at the beginning of chapter 7, but McNab is, and McNab is a character. So down here I'm going to write character traits. Remember, a character trait is something that describes a character. So at the beginning of the chapter 7, we meet McNab, and he's actually the person I'm going to be writing the story and the point of view I'm going to be using. So McNab strikes out 16 batters in the first part. He uses a fastball when pitching, and his character traits are that he's overconfident, just like we talked about how Satchel Paige was overconfident. He's very loud. He's seen as a bully because he keeps yelling, strike 33, strike 34, things like that. He's also very athletic because they talk about how he's much bigger than all the other kids and things like that. So at the beginning of the story and beginning of the chapter, McNab strikes out 16 batters. He has a fastball, and he keeps yelling out certain things like 26, 27, 28, and there's a lot of metaphors. So I'm going to put a star here that says, remember figurative language. And then the examples that they use is that talking about how the ball just zoomed to the backstop, and he was like a shark. He had the bloodlust, which means that he was hungry to beat all the other students and beat all, not the other students, the other players. Okay, so that's what happens at the beginning. In the middle of the chapter, this is when Maniac McGee comes in. So Maniac McGee comes to play at 2 Mills Little League Field. And this is where McNab calls him names. For example, he calls him a runt. He also calls him, he laughs at him, so he makes fun of him. So here he's being a bully again too. He tells him that he's not, so our character trait is bully. He tells him that he can't play, and he thinks this is funny, so he is being humorous. Okay? So he's being humorous, he calls names, he says that he can't play, and he acts like it's no big deal, that this is just another person that he's going to strike out. Okay? So, then what happens in the middle, the climax of this, so I'm going to write down here climax. The climax of this whole section is the fact that McNab can't strike out Maniac. So now he starts getting angry. He starts making excuses. Like he says he needs to go to the bathroom and things like that. He thought that he was just laughing too hard and that's why he wasn't able to pitch. So he thinks it's funny and then he starts getting angry. So then when he says he has to go to the bathroom, so he goes to the bathroom. And at the bathroom or the river, stream, he finds a frog. So he pitches the frog ball, as they call it, or leg ball. They call it a leg ball. They call it a frog ball. They call it the fast frog. And Maniac bunts it, which means that he barely hits it, so it just goes a little bit forward. So then what happens is the frog ball gets hit, and then McNabb runs towards Jeffrey McGee or Maniac McGee and says, "Don't ever let me catch you again." So he is furious. Okay, he is absolutely furious. Okay, so, and he's probably baffled, which means he's very confused of what happened. And he's kind of confused here too about why Maniac thinks it's okay for him to be at his field, because he considers it's his field because he's the best. So what we're going to do with this graphic organizer, boys and girls, is we're going to write out a story using McNabb's point of view. So things I think about when I write is I'm going to probably start typing it and think about how at the beginning McNabb is talking about how he strikes everyone out and how he's the best because we said that he's overconfident. And then in the middle about how a little runty kid comes up and he doesn't deserve to be playing on my field. Remember, we're going to use the word my or I because we're using the first person. And then in the end, I'm going to talk about how I think it's funny and it's a good idea to throw a frog ball to Maniac because I want to strike him out and I want it to be gross and funny and make a fool out of him. But in result, he kind of makes a fool out of me, McNabb, because he ends up hitting the ball and then running away. So, boys and girls, what we're going to do after this is we're going to type our story. So make sure that you have your book, make sure you have your graphic organizer, and we'll do that next. Okay?